Today's guest, Jerry Lee, has an inspiring story of perseverance. Growing up in a first-generation low-income household with no corporate connections, he learned the power of self-advocacy. Through hard work and climbing the corporate ladder, he saw how crucial thoughtful job hopping decisions can be to fueling your FI journey. Get ready to hear how Jerry turned his financial journey into a passion for helping others land their dream jobs, and how you could be one step closer to leveling up your salary. Thanks so much for joining me today, Jerry Lee.
Mindy, I'm so excited to be here. I've been a long-time fan, so this is kind of a dream come true moment for me. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's jump right in on your financial journey. Where do you think your journey starts?
So I come from a first-generation low-income background. So my family never thought about money, never taught me about money. So I would say that my financial journey starts from college, and that's when I started to learn about budgeting, finances, investing. And so for me, learning all the nuances made me realize, like, whoa, this actually isn't as complicated as people make it seem. Why didn't I learn about this earlier?
Okay, how did you pay for college? And let's even go back into high school a little bit. What was your financial position coming out of high school? Did you work through high school?
So I would say throughout high school, I would say finances were pretty tight. And going into college, definitely finances were probably one of the biggest variables as I thought through my college options. Luckily, I applied to a school, Babson, which was a private business institution. And private schools cost a ton of money, but they were really, really generous with their financial aid packages. And so going through college, I had to take out roughly $30,000 to $40,000 in loans.
So what was your financial position when you left college, when you graduated? Did you have student loans or had you paid those off?
At that point, I probably still had around this total amount that I took out, roughly about $40,000 when I graduated college.
Okay. What was your mindset around those student loans? Did you have the idea that you had to pay them off no matter what, or were they at a low interest rate?
Yeah, these were primarily government loans. So I think the interest rates ranged from 2 to 5%, I think. And so my mindset going into this was like, I got to do everything in my power to pay these down, because growing up, I sort of saw how debt played a really big role in my parents' finances and how it sort of crippled them in some ways. And so going through college, I was involved with the business fraternity. I was involved with different professional organizations like the consulting club that helped me understand this is what a resume is. This is how you interview. This is what a cover letter is. And all those things helped me manifest and create opportunities throughout the school year, where I did, by the time I graduated college, about 7 internships throughout my college career that then led me to have a really strong foundation for me to work at Google. I think that's the story, at least I tell myself, that, or the other version is I just got really lucky.
You didn't get lucky. Luck presented itself and you took advantage of the opportunity. An opportunity that there's lots of people who have had opportunities present themselves and they're like, no, thank you. And they don't have Google on their resume. There were several opportunities that I passed over that I wish I would have taken advantage of. So whenever anybody says they got lucky, I always like to correct them. You didn't get lucky. An opportunity presented yourself and you took action. So getting lucky is just something outside of your control. Taking action is something in your control. What did you study in college, and what was your career trajectory when you graduated?
During college, I majored in business. And after college, I started my career at Google as an analyst. And I was lucky, but also worked really hard to get 2 promotions within my first 2 years. So within my first job, my salary, my total compensation was about $80,000. And and every promotion and every year, so within the first 9 months of me working, I had gotten my first promotion. And that was, something I really was proud of myself for, because I put so much time and attention to figuring out the right projects, working with the right people. And that boosted my compensation about 30 to 40%. I then did it again a year later, and my compensation almost tripled to close to $200,000. And so I'd gone from making $80,000 at the age of 22 to $200,000 by the time I was the age of 24. And for me, what that represented was like, oh my gosh, like I really can manifest my own future. Like if I really focus all my time and attention and energy into achieving a goal that I really want, which at the time was I want to pay off my student loans as quickly as possible. I didn't want to help put the down payment for my parents' home. It sort of magically happened.
Hard work. What is the luck is what happens when hard work meets opportunity or something, or maybe
Yes.
I just made that up. Yeah.
Yes.
There are plenty of other people in a similar position. You started out at 80,000. I bet you weren't the only hire at Google that year. There were other people who did not move up the ladder. They didn't move up as fast as you because they didn't work as hard as you. And when you're 22, 23, 24, that's a great time to be putting in a ton of hours at work, so long as it's, something that you enjoy, or at least like can see the benefit of it. If it's not the right fit, absolutely leave the job and go find someplace else. But with Google, I would almost say tough it out, because having that on your resume is huge. When did you start learning about the financial independence movement? Because making $200,000 a year at Google is awesome, but not always in hand with saving up for an early retirement.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. I think the time I really became serious about learning about the FIRE movement was probably around the time I started working. I remember Google hosted a lot of these financial independence, financial savviness workshops, and I remember they had a whole month dedicated to different events, speakers. Financial advisors came in to speak, and so that's when I started reading up a lot on Reddit, a lot on like Mr. Money Mustache, and that's where I came across BiggerPockets. And so that's where I started learning a lot of the different concepts of investing into index funds, starting early, compound interest. And so I think that was a foundation that I had. And once I started to dig deeper into figuring out, okay, these are what Roth conversion ladders are. This is the pro rata rules of the IRS, where they help you understand how to take money out of your IRA without paying the penalty for the contributions versus growth, was when I started setting up time with the financial advisors that were available to us at Google, where you could just ask them any finance questions. And through asking those questions, I think it really solidified my understanding of what the FIRE movement is. And I would always ask them, what is it that I'm missing? Is it really just increased savings rate, minimize expenses, and investing into index funds? Like, no way, right? They were like, for a majority of people, like, that's kind of it. I'm like, there's no way. What about this? What about that? And we'd have longer discussions. But that's honestly how it came about. Just came of me seeing the opportunities or having the opportunities for me to learn, me taking the action for me to learn it, digging deeper, asking professionals, and that was that.
So let's talk about spending. One of the biggest ways to derail your FIRE journey is to spend so much that you don't have enough to invest in. Starting out at $80,000, were you living in the Bay Area?
I was living in the Bay Area. I wasn't living in San Francisco though.
Okay, so that is an expensive place to live. Even if you're not in San Francisco, that's still an expensive place to live. How much were you spending when you were making 80,000? And once you jumped up to 200,000, did you increase your spending, or did you start investing more?
Great question. I started living in Silicon Valley, where I shared a 3-bedroom home with 2 other roommates. My rent at the time was, I think, $1,200 per month, roughly. So thankfully, as a percentage of my income, it was roughly probably like 20-ish, 15-ish% of my take-home pay. But that was very much of an intentional choice, because I knew that, hey, listen, I have these student debts I need to pay. I want to keep my expenses to an absolute minimum for me to start paying off my student loan. So that was my living situation at the time.
Okay. And then once you got that whopping raise, did you continue to have roommates?
Always had roommates. I very much tried to abide by the, living below your means. So even when I almost tripled my compensation, I eventually moved over to San Francisco for personal reasons, but that increased my rent to about $2,000-ish a month. So even though it was an $800 increase per month, I felt like it was justified because I had other priorities in my life. But that was definitely, as a percentage of my income, it was actually much lower because my income was just so much higher.
Right. Okay. So it sounds like it was a conscious decision. And I think that is the unifying thread between everybody that I've ever talked to when they started getting their finances in order, and even if their expenses went up on this item or that item, it was a conscious choice. It wasn't just, oh, well, now I got a raise, so I have to live in a nicer place. It was a decision to make. I want to be closer to work. I want to, there's other factors that are going on, but I'm doing this on purpose, not just because I got a raise and therefore I deserve it. So what are your expenses look like now?
Now, I would say my expenses are somewhat similar. For me, what I've realized is I don't care for the designer or anything like that. What I really value are just experiences. So I'll portion my income towards expenses that really mean a lot to me. Beyond that, I would say my living expenses are somewhat similar. They've gone up quite a little bit because I'm in New York, but in terms of meeting my bare necessities of what I consider living, like I feel like those have been met. My expenses truly have not risen that much since then, which I feel really grateful for.
Are you still working?
I am working. So now, since maybe about 5 years ago, I left my full-time job at Google to go full-time onto my company, Wonsulting, where our goal is to help people who come from underrepresented backgrounds get into their dream jobs. And the other side of my job is I'm also a content creator. So I have about 3 million followers across Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, where I talk about career stuff. And so this career stuff, job search, is something I'm really, really passionate about because I've seen how much of an impact it's made on my life, and it's something I can talk about for hours.
So does your Wonsulting, does that generate income for you? Or is that a labor of love?
It does. We're a company of about 30 people now. So we have our user base. So we create job search AI tools, and we have close to, I want to say, about 1.3 million users on our platform.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm not looking for a new job, so.
Oh my goodness, Mindy. I was trying to sell you.
No, I'm not aware of all the things that are out there. I know LinkedIn exists, but I have no presence on it just because I'm not looking for a new job. So
yeah, fair enough.
Let's talk about leaving Google. Having that on your resume, and it sounds like that was on your resume for a really long time. How do you walk away from something like that? Surely did you have golden handcuffs? Did you have such a high income that walking away? I mean, you just get stock options too as you're part of your compensation, right?
Yeah. We got a salary, end of year bonus. We got equity within the business. So yeah, they really do everything in their power to keep you. You get free food. The gyms are really nice. You get to go to every office in the world. So it's honestly a great place to work. And if anyone has the opportunity to go there, I would highly recommend it. The biggest sort of hurdle that I had to overcome for myself was, for me, at the point that I was at in my career, at the point I paid off my student loans. And one of my life goals was I wanted to put a down payment for my parents' home, which I was able to do that with my brother. We were really proud. And finally, for around the age of 25, I felt like, wow, I can finally do whatever I want with my money. And so at that point, my biggest North Star in my career was I wanted to keep moving up. I don't want to feel like I was stuck in my career where I was going to be working and there was going to be no more upward mobility. And so as I talked to all the leaders around me, they said, hey, Jerry, slow down. You do good work. We value having you here. I hope that you've seen that we value you because we promoted you. But at a certain point, you gotta almost wait your turn. And I was thinking, wait, but that doesn't make any sense to me. If you're telling me that I don't have much feedback for me to improve on my performance, and you tell me that I'm performing at the next level, and you're not going to move me up because of political reasons, politics, whatever, that doesn't make much sense to me. And so to me, I was fortunately at a place financially where I didn't have to optimize for finances anymore. I can optimize for other variables in my career. And so that's where I started thinking to myself, okay, well, if I feel like I can't have upward mobility at Google, then I'm going to look elsewhere. And so that's when I left and joined another company where they did up-level me.
Okay. So how many times did you change jobs between Google and starting Wonsulting?
So I changed my job one time. And during that time, at that role, I got I got a level promotion. So I was managing my own teams. I was reporting to the chief product officer. It was awesome. I was like, oh my gosh, everything that I wanted. But what I soon began to realize was that, hey, all this additional extra work that I have to do now, I feel like I'm basically doing the work I was doing, except now I have 6 times the amount of work. And so I was thinking to myself, like, wait, why would I do this? Why would I take on this additional amount of work? Is it purely just for like the title? And so that's when I was really thinking to myself, and this is a career principle that I've always heard is whenever you leave a job, you need to consider 2 things. Is something pushing you out of your role, or do you feel like there's an opportunity pulling you in? And at that point, Wonsulting was something that was really blowing up. It was around the time we first started doing social media, and my co-founder asked me, hey, I'm full-time on this. I think you should go to full-time on this as well. I talked to a lot of my mentors and decided you should give it a 1-year shot. 5 years later, here we are today.
What was your financial position when you left the comfort and security of a W-2 job and went out on your own?
At the time, I had saved up enough cash for me to cover my expenses for 2 years. So I gave myself a 1-year buffer, and I gave myself, hey, if this doesn't work out, I want to take a little bit of a break anyways. And then I gave myself 3 to 6 months of expenses in case I needed it to look for a new job. So for me, I was really cash heavy because I knew that I was going to make this next step. The first thing that came to mind as I jumped into this business was, how do we get enough revenue so that we can at least pay ourselves just to cover our expenses? And maybe about 6 months in, we started paying ourselves a salary of about, I want to say $50,000 roughly. And that covered our expenses.
Oh, in the Bay Area, $50,000 doesn't go very far.
Oh, at that point, we moved over to LA because expenses were a lot lower. And this was also during COVID. So thankfully, housing was a lot more affordable back then.
Wait, you quit your job during COVID?
I quit my job during COVID, as crazy as it sounds, yes.
I've actually spoken with a lot of people who left their jobs during like the height of COVID, the 2020, 2021, before vaccines were readily available, before the numbers really started coming down. And every single time, like I remember back when, I remember COVID, and I remember this like kind of uncertainty, and that's even more impressive that you were able to start a business during a time when everybody was like clinging to their jobs. If they had a job, they didn't quit because, what's going to happen? I love that you did that. So 2 years of expenses, absolutely love that. And if you don't have at least 1 year's expense saved up already, then I don't think that you should be going out and starting a new career.
Definitely not, no.
If you are financially independent, maybe that's different. Did you consider yourself to be financially independent when you quit your job?
Definitely not. I definitely needed the 2-year buffer for me to quit my job. Right
now, the tech space is pretty rough. Starting in like 2022, there were mass layoffs from, these major companies. What is your biggest piece of advice to people who are applying to jobs right now?
The biggest piece of advice to people who, especially are applying in the tech industry, is number 1, focus so much more of your effort on networking. At the crux of it, people hire other people based on 3 things. Can you do the job? Otherwise known as, do you have the experience? Can I imagine myself working with you? And can I see you staying in this role? Applying to jobs only helps answer the first question. Can you do the job? But in the interviews, the interviewers try to help them understand, can I imagine myself working with you? Can I imagine you staying here? So networking is going to help preemptively answer the latter 2 questions that otherwise you wouldn't even get a chance to answer in front of interviewers. So it is more important than ever that you focus on networking because that is how you are going to stand out. That's the best advice I would have.
All right. So Jerry, how has FIRE changed your perception of work and life?
I would say in some ways, even though I'm not at my FIRE goal, in some ways I do feel like I'm fired because the concept of fire to me is, if money weren't an object, how would you be spending your time? And for me, if someone were to say, hey, Jerry, here's $10 million, go have fun, I don't really know if there's much I would change about my life. Sure, I'd maybe get a better apartment. Maybe I would stress a little bit less ordering guac at Chipotle. But beyond that, I don't know if I would really change much. So as I thought about the FIRE movement and how that impacts money, impacts the way I live my life, the core question I constantly ask myself is, money weren't an object, what would I be doing with my time right now? And how close can I get to that sort of ideal life? I ask myself this on a regular basis to really keep myself in check. Anytime I feel like I deviated a little bit too much away, causes me to stop, rethink my priorities, and adjust my time allocations accordingly.
I love it. Yeah. Thinking about your situation, thinking about your spending in terms of how many hours you have to work to cover that expense, thinking about just how can I make my life match my goals is so important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing that, as I've spoken to a lot of friends about their journeys with FIRE and saving, I don't think many people think about the question of, if money weren't an object, how would you be spending that time? And a lot of people will say, oh, I would garden, or I would do this, or I would learn these skills or whatever. But I'm like, why can't you do that today? Sure, you may not be able to dedicate 40 hours to it, but you can definitely dedicate 3 hours, 2 hours.
So, Jerry, what is your FI timeline? How much time do you have left before you, or like what percentage of the way are you to your FI number?
I would say probably about 5 years, I would say. And I thought about this a lot. Like, even if this were tomorrow or 5 years or what have you, I don't know if there's much I would change about my life. I really do feel blessed and privileged enough where I'm working and building a company that I truly believe I was put on this earth to do. I truly believe that there's a really big problem in the job search space that a lot of people need help with, that I don't think the current services and products solve that today. And the content creation piece, I love creating content. I love talking to people about something I'm so passionate about. And if people disagree, let's talk about it. I'd love to talk to anyone about this. So in a lot of ways, like, the FI goal is there, but I don't think it's anything that I look forward to, because I don't think that there's much I would change about my life.
I love that. So just because you reach your FI number, you hit financial independence, doesn't mean you automatically have to stop working. I've been financially independent for about a year after I started working at BiggerPockets. This year is my 10th year.
Congratulations, Mindy. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't want to quit. I love this job. I love talking about money and real estate. I love talking to different people about their journey. I love sharing their journey. I have this platform. I want to share other people's journeys because I live in Longmont, Colorado, kind of the mecca for FI. And I don't sometimes remember that not everybody has a huge support system around them. And I want people to realize, yes, there are other people on this journey. Yes, they're doing things just like you. They've made mistakes like you. They've learned from their mistakes. So you can learn from their mistakes without having to live through them as well. So that's why I share all of these stories. And I would almost do this job for free.
Wow. That is awesome. Well, hey, Mindy, don't tell the BiggerPockets team that.
Yeah, no, that's why I say almost.
That's right.
All right, Jerry, thank you so much for your time today. This was so much fun. Is there any place that people can find you online?
If anyone wants to find me, it's Jerry J.H. Lee on Instagram, TikTok, everything. And my company is called Wonsulting, Wonsulting. You can find me on socials. I'm pretty active on my DMs and comments. Please reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jerry. This was great. And if you like this video, please click the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more inspiring FIRE videos just like Jerry's. This is Mindy Jensen signing off.